Welcome back to Market Day Report. Thanks for staying with us here on this Wednesday. Well, from weather trends to economic hurdles, there are a number of factors that are influencing moves in farmland market today. Accredited farm manager Troy Swee joins us now with some industry insight. Troy, a pleasure. What are we looking at as far as land values in your area? Some of the biggest factors that influence those prices?
Really, when it comes down to it, local commodity prices and the number of properties for sale is always going to be the biggest determining factor for land values. Even though we've seen a reduction in farm income for the last 3 years, land values have been extremely resilient and have held up drastically well compared to what we thought it would do. But again, a lot of it is being supported by the lack of properties for sale currently. We've also seen 3 years of a downturn of the number of properties for sale. And we've seen actually a reduction in the number of buyers attending these auctions. So I think the lack of inventory out there is really supporting land values. And if we would see an uptick of land sales of 20-25% of total farms on the market, I think that would put a lot of strain on land values.
Yeah, interesting to hear that people are maybe just holding on to their land right now. And also we always see, depending on area, right? And depending on part of the region, are you seeing some areas that have maybe stronger appreciation of land values?
Yeah, when you take a look at it, a couple things jump out at me when I look at appreciation of land values. And one, if you're in cattle country, you're probably seeing an increase in land values. When you look at record profits in the ag sector, on the livestock sector of it, pasture land is excelling extremely well. The other area that's excelling extremely well is recreational type properties. Recreational properties always seem to kind of follow the stock market. So when the stock market seems to go up in value, like it has in the last 12 months, we see a lot more people willing to buy those recreational properties. So if you've got a property that is really kind of a hunting property and you're close to a population center and thinking about selling it, I think that would sell extremely well in 2026. All
right. I want to break this down because I'm always interested in how people come to this conclusion regarding auction, Troy, versus traditional listing. How do you determine the best method to sell someone's property?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, it comes down to a couple different things. Is one, what are the goals of the seller? What would be your personal goal? If we want to get this property sold relatively quickly and you want to get away from it, auction's probably our best way to do that. Mm-hmm. The other thing we really have to take a look at is what type of property are we selling? If it's a property that's a really high quality quarter of farm ground, we know we're going to see a lot of bidders. We know it's going to sell extremely well. However, if you've got a property with some blemishes on it, when I say blemishes, maybe it's cut up by some cricks, maybe it's got a lot of sloughs in it, something that we know we've got a limited number of buyers for, our recommendation is always going to be probably a traditional listing or possibly a bid sale, a sealed bid sale.
Okay, so that's great advice there. This is a question that I'm sure there are a lot of factors that weigh into how you answer this, but let's say I inherited some farmland today. What would you recommend? Do I keep it? Do I rent it? Or maybe I just flat out sell it? And again, I'm sure it depends on where it is, what the land's used for, how good the land is.
That's a question that we're seeing a lot more of, especially recently, with when we take a look at the baby boomers that are going to be passing, and it's starting to happen currently, but we estimate about 40% of all farmland is going to trade hands sometime between starting now and in the next 20 years. So that's a massive amount of acres. So we have people every day that are waking up finding that maybe just like yourself that, hey, I'm a landowner now. What do I do with this property? And a lot of it really comes down to your long-term goals. More and more people are hanging on to farm ground as part of their family legacy. They want to be keeping it in the family, pass it on for generation. If that's your long-term goal and you're willing to hang on to farmland that gives us a solid ROI compared to the stock market and relatively maintenance-free, I'd recommend you hang on to that property. However, if you're looking at selling and you tell me that you want to have this property gone in the next 1 to 3 years, I would probably say, let's just get it on the market. There's really not much on the horizon that says ag values or land values are really going to increase sometime in the next 6 to 12 months.
All right. Great advice there. There are so many hurdles. I think, we think of just selling land and it's simple, easy peasy. Not the case. Maybe common mistakes that you find that landowners tend to make when they are selling their farmland.
I think one of the big ones you take a look at is they really don't know what they have, because maybe you just inherited a farm like you did, Suzanne, and they really don't know the property they own. And they get contacted by a local farmer, a local investor, and they take the first price given to them. Now, I personally love it when a local farmer who has the opportunity to step in and get a piece of farm ground bought that they've been farming for the last 20, 30 years. However, for the landowner, a lot of times the price they receive is far below market value. If you get approached by somebody wanting to buy your property, do a little bit of homework, find out what type of property you have, maybe open up to the market. I mean, I don't want to leave any dollars on the table for our landowners if we don't have to.
Absolutely. And Troy, just for the record, if I inherit any land, I am keeping it, but I'll call you when I'm ready.
I'm going to hold you to that.
All right. Accredited farm manager, that is Troy Swee. Thank you, Troy.